Awesome. So I am super excited to be here with Heather, and we're having another one of these interview podcast episodes. And she recently completed multiple months in my coaching program, and now she's integrating back into her life, and we are catching up. It's been a few weeks. Love like you know, introducing Heather. What would you like to say or share?
Yeah, I think it's been almost a month since I've been back in Hawaii and since we've had a formal call. Um, so I guess the coolest part about the evolution of the skill that I was able to develop from the calls with you is that I'm consistently having mystical experiences that happen just kind of spontaneously or instantaneously, whether that's in a 2 minute shavasana in yoga class or even in a yoga pose. And then the depth of the experience, like during a massage, is just so fun to experience because it's just a whole new level when I'm all relaxed and still awake. Yeah, the exciting part about the skill is that it continues to develop and delight and surprise me in what kind of mental images I see. But I think one of the coolest things that's kind of a new experience for me is that my body has become calibrated to the language of my spirit. So, if I'm making a decision, I can feel in my body, like I can feel a visceral sensation, like, yep, this is what I'm doing, this is what's happening. Um, and yeah, like sometimes it's been shocking, like the goosebumps I have, or like the tingling sensation I have from like making a decision or moving forward with an opportunity. So that's kind of crazy. And at the same time, there's this experience that I'm really excited for to be a science communication fellow. And the old operating system would have been to like try really hard and say what I'm supposed to say to get the position. And I keep on having synchronicities or experiences where I'm just being shown, don't worry about it. So it's just, I'm consistently being provided with evidence to trust and be certain in my knowing and to relax. And so it is such an amazing reminder um, to just not worry about it. Like, okay, the things that are for me, okay, I can move forward with, and I don't have to operate how I used to.
Oh, I feel like there's so many like conversational trailheads from that. So it's like, okay, so you are developing skills of having these, mystical experiences that so many people seek out. And I love that you're referred to as a skill and it's an ability and it's like something that can be activated. And then there's, oh, so you're getting them in your meditations and your massages and your yoga classes, which is amazing. And so, like, part of me is wondering, like, what are those like? What do you want to highlight there? There's something else I kind of want to swoop into that because you're also talking about how it's like you're now comfortable and okay with going with the flow of your life, and you can feel these sensations that are like activating. So, like the place where that comes together, it's an ability. There's this trust in yourself. Like if someone's listening to this, what's relevant about that? Like what's special about that?
So I guess last week, the day before I had my interview, and I've noticed that the excitement and nervousness feels the same in my body. It's just how I want to perceive it with my mind that determines if I'm excited or nervous. Um, so I was at the beach and I was meditating, and so I was just trying to be calm about the interview and just be excited about the experience. And on the ocean with like the breeze, I like feel like I'm flying, which is just a beautiful feeling I often have when I'm connected to super consciousness. And then I have this whole just I have this whole mental imagery about like being on a magic carpet ride flying, and I'm over the Marshall Islands, which is hopefully where I intend to sail with the Nautilus. So it was like, and it wasn't like I was forcing myself to see that thing. It was a reception, or it was a receiving of this mental imagery from just being in a relaxed state at the beach. Um, so that was a really beautiful experience. And I just thought, okay, I'm just going to relax and enjoy this mental imagery and relax into the possibility that this is the golden path forward. And if it's not, it'll lead me to whatever is meant to. Um, so that is part of the experience. And then as that's happening, the the goosebumps, the like chills up my spine, the that experience was that was a visceral experience as I had that mental imagery. So, and it became stronger for that part of the visualization or what I was seeing versus like a second before where it was just a pleasant flying experience. But this one like sent an activation in my body with tingling and chills and just like that familiar feeling I've gotten from developing the skill of connecting to super consciousness and explaining what that feels like in my body.
Well, wow. Yeah, okay. It's like what I'm hearing here is like you've developed the skill to access the super consciousness, source, energy, universal intelligence, whatever is there, and within that you're able to decipher the information within your body, being like, oh, this is a signal, a sign, an impulse from this higher consciousness, the super consciousness. And when it's felt in my body, I can tell the difference of if this is something I do now or later, or if this is aligned with, universal flow or not. And then when I'm hearing about the imagery, it's like this internal experience of, seeing a vision of flying over the islands. That moment is so internally real, so connected that you're having a visceral, sensational experience. And when you follow that, synchronicities and opportunities open up that feel similar and continue to guide you in a relevant, related direction.
Yes. Yeah. And then the synchronicities just kind of produce that feeling in my body again, but that's external evidence of a similar sensation in my body. And yeah, this the book I was reading the next day talked about the root of genius and the word genie and just like yeah, so it's really fun to continue to experience the synchronicities, but I think that component of it is a new experience for me that I never had before working with you for those several months.
So what particular part of it is the new experience? Because I find there's like this continuous building of momentums. Like the more I put attention and participation into these really subtle inner skills, that like this momentum continues to stack and grow. So like how's that playing out for you?
So I've had mental imagery from meditating before and from just being relaxed in massage before, but the instantaneous ability to have those experiences now is just I can just go there very quickly and spontaneously. And then the depth of the experience that I'm able to have seems more profound than maybe what I've had in the past. And then the sensations in my body, like when I'm like pulled towards a choice, that's a whole new thing that just feels like a superpower.
So amazing that you call it a superpower. What my original name for the coaching program you took is activating superpowers. And maybe it's a great name for it. Is there,
Yeah.
there's something about like when we like it, the ability, the skill is like, what are we doing with our focus? And then like being super aware of like subtle differences of energies and like how, feeling one way leads to inspiration that guides in certain ways. So there's like this nuance of skill that's developed. And then like when participating in that, what I'm hearing from you is you've really developed like a super heightened sense of how your decision focus awareness and the energy in your body correlate, connect, feed into each other, and you're able to like, so you're talking about like on command. So it's like you can activate this, but then you're also talking about that it's like the guiding synchronistic mechanism. I call it inner guidance, right? What's this force that's compelling you toward a life you prefer, like these synchronistic opportunities that align with your desires. And so there's this magic sweet spot where you can like what I'm hearing from you, I mean, you validate, confirm or not, is like you can activate synchronistic experiences, like this visceral energy that guides you to synchronistic experiences on command. Am I hearing this right?
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I, I don't think in my head like, oh, I want to have a synchronistic experience, but I can feel the sensations in my body to move me towards a path that then unfolds as having these synchronicities.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So like how do you feel about that?
So I guess I could speak about the one example that I just spoke about, the science communication fellowship for the Nautilus.
Yeah.
So in the past, I would have found an opportunity like that and been excited and thought like, oh, that matches my unique skill set. Let me like logically make the best application I can to move forward with this. And this time I saw the opportunity and I had that like sensation in my body like, oh yeah, this is a match. Like this is a path for me moving forward. And then I still enjoyed the process of answering the questions for the application, but I didn't perseverate on it like I would have in the past because writing is a process and I could just like make it a never ending process and always want to fine tune it and make it better. And this time I was spending time with family and it was a much shorter time frame I had to answer the questions. So I just kind of confidently did a good job and then recognized like, I'm a match for this. I don't need to obsess over it or like make it perfect. Like and even one of the requirements of being a teacher actively, um, I didn't fall into, but I was like, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to move forward and trust that it's all going to work out. um, so that was a part of it. And then the other cool thing was one of the questions was, what are your unique abilities that you'll bring to the program? And that was a question that um, was a topic of one of our calls several weeks or several months prior. So it was a question I was exploring for months and continue to explore just as a practice to getting to know myself better. So the fact that I already answered a question before it was presented to me was another synchronicity. And then I chose to go see a friend of mine on the other side, in Hilo side, that I hadn't seen in several years. And that's when I learned that I had been selected as a finalist for the program. And then her boyfriend is like, oh, yeah, I know the Nautilus. I've sailed on it before. I was the mechanic. I know Mary Cook. And I was like, that's one of the women I'm going to be interviewing with. He's like, yeah, I'll text her and let her know that we're friends. And so just all those layers of synchronicities just continue to give me like certainty and knowing like I'm not going to stress over this. And in addition, our last call, I felt like what celebration feels like in my body. And it was a slow savoring and like a gentle bubbling up, like effervescence, tingling sensation. And so now I'm just experiencing this whole process as like a slow bubbling up and savoring the celebratory process instead of the old operating system, which would have been like, oh my God, I just want to know. And it's like now it's like, oh yeah, I get to just enjoy all these synchronicities and excitements and I'm staying with a friend right now and she has a Nautilus coffee mug that I never use. And then that day I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use this mug. And yeah.
That's amazing. Like just listen to you go on about this, like synchronicity after synchronicity, and they just keep stacking and like as you go in the direction, there's more. It's like, oh, come this way. Like it's amazing to me how when we are like fully in alignment with our self, our spirit, our unique essence, unique ability, inner guidance, like this moment that we're like in alignment, and then how when we're able to participate in that like over and over again, that like the reality itself just starts bending to give opportunities that match it. And what's so amazing to me about it, there's those times in my life when I'm doing it, we're calling it like the old operating way, like the strategy and thinking and trying, and results are mixed. And then there's the times when I'm just like in the flow and I'm just enjoying whatever is here, and then it just synchronistically, here's the next one, here's the next one, here's the next one. It just goes so smoothly and easily. Like, yeah, anyway, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's been such a joy because I'm not wasting any mental energy worrying about whatever is. I've been back in Hawaii for a month, and usually I come back and I start working immediately. And this time I've just been able to really enjoy myself and just relax and trust that whatever's going to happen whenever it's meant to happen, and it's all coming into place. But there's not so much of like a forcing to make it happen, and I'm just really present and enjoying life and feel so fortunate to just be able to enjoy this lifestyle and be here and have these experiences and just be present. I feel like I'm present more of the time, I'm in flow more of the time, and I love that state, and that's the state I want to be in, and I have the freedom to be in that state and just see evidence. Uh, yeah, it's really a gift to be in flow state more than not.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, like, mentioning flow state of being in general, but it's like flow state is like, that magical moment that the experience of the things synchronistically aligning, And so it's like talking about the skills, it's like the skill of being able to activate flow state is also what we're discussing. And then that's also the state of being. And then like just to emphasize the state of being, like spending years on the I don't know, law of attraction journey, talking to people who like to create reality whenever, it's like my conclusion from that is the state of being is what creates the reality around us. And so because it's skills, so when we're able to participate in connection and super consciousness and alignment and presence and flow, like though that is the state of being that then leads to the awareness and impulses and actions that open the doors for like the opportunities, the synchronicities, the awarenesses, like for example, I made this AI coach and I'm giving out free trials for it. And I offer like, hey, who wants one? And some people reach out and then I'm like, okay, I'll give you the free trial. And some people accept it and have a great experience. And other people are like, oh, I don't know. It's free. I'm not going to accept it. And then, even though they asked for it, and I kind of reflect on this, I talk to them about it and stuff. And it's like, even though this thing that they desire was handed to them, they have to be in a state of receptivity to accept the opportunity. Even it's the thing they asked for. Here you go, it's free. Are you sure? It's like, yeah, no strings attached. Here you go. I don't know. I'm gonna not do that. I'll get back to you. And so there's something really special about the aligning, and this is the flow, it is the skills that we're talking about, it is the alignment presence itself. But it's like the being that we are, like the person and the patterns and the actions I take, and then the opportunities and environments I find myself in. And then there's the like synchronicity of the opportunities that are rising. And when this is aligned, it's like the personality, the opportunity, the state of being, that seems to really be the magic recipe that has the flow of continuous synchronistic experiences. Because it's like if I'm not ready, like I'm thinking I got to do this other stuff, but the opportunity I'm looking for is right here. I got to be in the state of being to accept it and participate in it and like choose it or tell the person I want it or whatever it is. Like there's like a physicality to it that happens. Um, so I feel like alignment from my current perspective is now something more than, oh, aligning with my breath or my presence or my thoughts or whatever, but it's also how in alignment am I with my entire experience, with my environment, with my opportunities. And so there's like a really magical space that can open up. And it sounds like you're doing that, you're experiencing that. It's like as I shared all that, like what's coming up for you?
Well, just the little things like having a thought about my friend Brooke and then like seeing someone with Brooke sneakers on when it's instantaneous and like things happen like that, even if it's not a big step forward on my path, it's still just a little bit of evidence of alignment or being connected that brings joy. Um, and yeah, being in flow state is like making decisions in the now based on like a feeling. So just not wasting all this mental energy and just like letting like my solar plexus guide me in response is a really fun experiment with how I've been operating lately.
I love how you call it a fun experiment. Like, yeah, I find that's really the key to opening up. Because like we've been society in general. It's kind of like this conditioning, this way we're supposed to operate. And the way I was raised is logic is highly valued, and school's got this process of like right and wrong answers and do it this way. And so there's all this strategic, logical, mental construct, and then there's this idea that I can trust my own inner guidance and fall into my own natural flow. And if and let's call that a skill. I mean, I think it's innate for, children and babies and stuff, but it's a skill as well. And so then as we fall into that flow to then like for me, the key was not to disregard the logical mind and be like, nah, logic doesn't work, be spiritual. Like there's this groups of people that kind of feel that way, or at least they articulate that. And I found the sweet spot is when the logical mind is now my scientist. And we're like, okay, you tell me. We'll make logical decisions and compare. And now we're gonna make these like intuitive solar plexus. It's for me, it's almost like it's like pulling me forward. It's like go this way. It's like that gut, like yeah, this. And then I got the heart open, so it's like okay, I'm gonna just lean into what I love and be more compassionate. And I'm gonna do this at the same time. And then like when I do that, and that feeling of oh, I'm gonna be more loving. Oh, I'm gonna be more inspired. And then when that experience is an extension of that momentum formulated into that conversation or that energy or that compounding, oh, like a whole bunch of synchronicities came together and is now forming a full-on experience that's everywhere. And then to be able to track that back and be like, oh, the energy of this, it came. I remember when I chose to follow my gut and heart, and it turned into this amazing thing, like the mental imagery said it would, and I can trace that. I can trace that, and I'd be like, this is the feeling, this is the decision. It led that way, and it has a very distinct feeling at the moment of it being received, the moment that the idea appears, and it's like, yeah, this one. And then there's the other side of it, which is the thinking and the trying, and it uses up so much energy. And then to be able to just be a scientist and be like, okay, this is my objective data, my subjective experience, and which do I prefer? And I found, like, after playing this game for years, my logical mind decided that my heart and gut are the words that are showing up here right now. It's like is a better navigator. It's kind of a funny way of putting it, but they're like a better compass. And so anyway, I'd love to hear your input on that.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I think the overall experience connecting to super consciousness and just practicing with this has just opened up the experiment for me to explore flow state, and um, it's empowered me to realize that I'm a co-creator in all of this. I think maybe I mentioned before that I used to think synchronicities happened to me and that the universe gave them to me, and I didn't realize that it was an interplay of me being connected to the universe that provided these
Mhm.
synchronicities. So it's a much more fun dance and interaction, and it's empowering to know that I'm playing a crucial role in this co-creation that is life, and then it helps me to enjoy it even more because it's not just happening to me, like I'm playing an active role in just my state of being, in choosing to connect, in choosing to be aware and focusing on that connection. And so yeah, it's so simple, but at the same time it wasn't simple until it became simple.
Yeah. Yeah, just the last thing you're saying there, because it is skills that like we're practicing these inner skills, and like any skill, especially if you don't really have comparative practice skills, it's difficult till it's not. And then the more reps you put in, there's kind of this, sometimes it's a higher skill quality, sometimes it's a lower skill quality. It fluctuates over time. Next thing you know, you become a proficient, and then the skill is able to activate more automatically. And a great reference would be like driving a car. First, it's like, whoa, a lot going on. Next, eventually, it's like I could talk to my friend, drive at the same time. And so it's like that, developing that, honing that, refining that, and then now you've gotten to the point where you are quite proficient. And so, what would you like to say about that?
I love that it's a skill that I'll never master or see the end of. And it is exciting that I'm surprised and delighted in new ways from connecting to super consciousness. And there's always, like you would say it, like origami unfolding, like there's always an unfolding. I think of it, it's like a flower, a fractal flower petal blooming. Like it just keeps going infinitely in every direction of whichever thread you focus on or choose to practice and cultivate. So as someone that can get bored with repetitive things, this is always a discovery and an exploration that will probably, oh, it will always be interesting, and there'll always be something else to learn, to discover, to explore. So it is an exciting path to be on, and a skill, yeah, that I'll never master. Therefore it'll be something that I'll always be able to engage in and get better at and continue to develop. So yeah, it's an exciting path to be on that I will never fully master. So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, so I feel like there's some key ideas. I'm going to kind of group them all together. So you're talking about a little bit ago the like the synchronistic co-creation. And then we're talking about now the I consider mastery not like an end target, but more like a verb. It's like pursuit of mastery, mastering. And as I practice mastering, I get closer to mastery, or I'm practicing mastery. So that's like how I like to perceive that. So if we're taking the idea of the skill of being a connective, integrative component in synchronicities and flow. And so I have the skill, we have the skill, we're developing the skill of being able to connect into the universe and the word there, materialize, realize is probably the closest one I'm feeling, but it's then to realize it into physical expression, and to notice that the state of being had a direct impact on what's appearing, and to really feel that visceral. So it's so beyond just a concept that it's this internal visceral feeling, knowing, awareness unfolding all the way to the point of experiential action. And so that skill space, the pursuit of mastery of I like that to like be the conduit of synchronicity and flow, where it's like by simply being yourself, being in the state of being of your own interest and excitement. As you mentioned interest so many times, it's like, of course, if I'm in the state of being of interesting, I'm going to experience more interesting. At a minimum, it'll be more interesting thoughts and feelings. And so if that's like the state that's being cultivated, and then that is what unfolds into the experiences and the synchronicities and the guidance and the things that's appearing. So now we have this opportunity to intentionally install experiences into our life with cultivating the state of being and tying that back to what we were saying in the beginning, if you align that with your unique essence and unique abilities, your unique qualities that you're most passionate, talented, energized by, improving at, fill into, become the like the material that makes the tapestry of your life. And so it like keeps feeding in. And so the skills are that space of getting very intentional, very aware, very specific's not quite the right word, but it's deliberate. It's intentional with that state, with that choice, with that flow. And while the opportunity to not be that way is always there, for me, it actually makes it easier to just keep choosing the states of being I prefer. It's like, if I just feel the two, which one do I like? Oh, I really like this one. I'm gonna keep feeling this way. Anyway, how do you feel about that? I went on for a bit.
Yeah, there's a relaxing and I used to put a lot of effort into things, and it's a lot more comfortable just relaxing and allowing and trusting and flowing. And it's just a much more comfortable state to be in. And I feel like I'm there more often. I have noticed times when I'm not, and I am kind of like trying to maybe make something to happen when it doesn't feel like it's meant to, or if it's not the path.
Mm.
But there's still moments of being human where I realize that difference, but I'm almost at the point like that's almost like an experiment to see why I wouldn't want to go down that path instead of like actually going down that path. Like
Mm.
for example, I've always taught at the same school whenever I come back to Hawaii, and this time it's just been roadblock after roadblock, and just like the vibe at this school is like, why would I even want to work there? And then this other school, it's just been like people have been pleasant. It's been so easy to know exactly what I need to provide in order to be able to teach there, and like phone calls instead of just emails. And it's like it's just part of the experiment, but it's like why would I even want to choose that other path that's so bumpy and clearly not the way, when this other one just seems more enjoyable, more flow, easier, more comfortable. So yeah, I guess um yeah, it's I'm not navigating from flow and synchronicities 100% of the time, so it's still good to see both sides of it. But yeah, it's way more fun and exciting and comes with all the things that we've been talking about when I do just allow myself to go with that flow instead of like forcing myself upstream. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to all that. Like what the I want to emphasize like the skill basedness, because like the skills easy for me anyway. It's like it's a solid example because we can look at people who are the peaks of their skills, and like we'll take like athletes, pro sports people or like Olympians and these people that dedicate their entire life to a very niche skill set. And even the people who are the very best in the world, they have their on days and their off days and their flow days and their out of flow days. And so it's just their level of flow when it's there is so profound. Their capacity for it is so great because there's been so much practice toward it. And so if we take that same skill-based concept, but we're applying it to the inner skills of alignment and connection and guidance and super consciousness and all these kinds of things and flow, then we can see where the skill development increases and the probability of, I'll call it success. It's kind of a funny way of doing it, but that's the moment of the realization, the moment of the synchronicity, the moment of the flow, right? That's like if I'm playing a sport and I get the point and there's like this, yeah, right. It's that moment. And so we can feel, see, observe the culmination of those energies. And so when we remember, for me, it helps to remember that it is a skill and skills have a lot of variables that come and go. And if I'm just going to keep practicing a skill because I enjoy the experience, because it's part of my passion, it's because it's a part of my unique abilities and unique essence, and I'm doing it for the flow and love of it, and then to align the intents and energies and experiences because now you're saying, okay, so I have this tool and this map, and I can feel when I'm going with the flow of the school and when there's more resistance, and I can compare the two options. And so there's this skill of discernment and to be able to know the difference and to feel the energies and to know the difference of the head and heart and to be able to feel it. And so as we're able to adjust that and lean into it, and then there's this it just keeps expanding, like so I feel like that's really the emphasis is that skills continue to improve with practice. And well, I guess that's kind of really the highlight there. So how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because initially it was have an intent, feel it in your body, and then have evidence of the intent being reflected back to you.
Yeah.
And and that has evolved into whatever it is now where I just connect and just open myself to an experience and allow the sensations to be a guide for which path I choose moving forward. So I'm almost not even consciously setting the intent. Like the intent is to be on the divine path with all the intentions I set. So now that's just the momentum of moving forward and it's this next level. And to go back to just I just want to reiterate that yeah, the new skill of feeling sensations in my body when I'm just sitting on the beach and like having a meditation, then open my eyes and like see like just like it's so interesting like what profound occurrences happen in a moment that just feel like they're so expansive and palpable and real. And, there's been evidence of those experiences in the external world, but also I know that those experiences are going to evolve and unfold into those external evidences moving forward because I have enough experience from the past. So that just again makes me happy to be in the present moment and having the sensations and experiences because I have this knowing and trusting that more of those intentions or that mental imagery will be presented to me in ways my logical minds can't even perceive. So it's just a really fun present state to be in. It's a state of elation and bliss because the excitement, delight, and surprise of it all makes it that much more enjoyable. But yet there's still a knowing that I'm going to be excited, surprised, and delighted with these intentions as long as I continue to flow on that path and connect and be aware of my connection.
Yeah, that's all beautiful. It's like what I'm hearing is like this knowing that the practicing of these skills it continues to develop and expand and grow in momentum. And back to like sports experts, like if you're playing a sport and you're scoring points, each time you do that, there's like a confidence that grows that it can be done again. So like each time a skill is successfully applied, like, oh, I tied my shoes. I know there's a probability I can do it again. And so, and if you're doing a skill that stacks together, like driving a car, you could get better and better. They could be a race car driver or something, so then there's this accumulation where it's like, if I continue to participate in this skill, not only do I know I'm going to keep getting better at it, I know the results are going to keep amplifying in some way as well. And so, I'm hearing you talk about having these deep, profound experiences from a meditative state. And then it's also having that reflective external experience. You're having the sweet spot experience that people in the law of attraction creation communities want. And that's the experience of the internal space is there and the external space around me. And that is a magical skill ability to be able to develop.
Yeah, and it's so much more enjoyable to just be in flow and run into my friends before the sunset and get to watch it with them versus like having to text them and be like, let's meet for the sunset. It's like walking back from yoga, like, oh hey. And and I just want to operate that way all the time with everything because it's part of the skill, but it's just so enjoyable and there's little pieces of evidence for all of it. So that's an example of just being in flow where you see some type of external evidence that's pleasing. Um, but like that's happening simultaneously, like with bigger synchronicities that like the Nautilus that I was talking about. And then to go back to state of being,
Mhm.
even my dreams, I could tell my subconscious is changing based on my dreams. Just
Ooh,
like I've
say more. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I've never had dreams like the ones I've been having lately, and it it just it's such a shift from like dreams when I was like younger that it's like, wow, I used to dream about like problems or issues or like bad things, and now like the dreams that I'm having or like the people I'm meeting or interacting with, it's like in the past I never would have been able to be on the same level as these people. That's not how my subconscious like perceived things. And and now it is. And it's so funny. Like the dreams I've been having are just like, yeah, next level.
That's amazing as well. It's like what so like I'm reflecting on this and taking it in. I find I've had a similar experience where my dreams are more like mystical experiences instead of like day-to-day, I don't know, problems or something. And so there's something interesting about that. And so if it's about like this, you're calling like the subconscious has changed. So what do you feel? What's your impression of what changed the subconscious?
Just state of being. I think the and all the transmuting and removing that which wasn't me, all that those things that I took on that weren't mine, like take having experiences where all those blocks were moved or just transmuting all these limiting beliefs have just shifted my baseline of my subconscious state to be more worthy. And again, the evidence that I'm perceiving in dreams is another way that I'm receiving evidence that I've shifted because, um, yeah, I mean, I wish I could give it. I don't have a specific example to give.
Yeah, all good, all good. Yeah, so I mean, what I heard you directly say was state of being is what's influencing the subconscious, and I feel that there's something profound with that. And I totally agree too. Is like the state of being I'm in has direct influence over the thoughts I access, the memories I have access to in that moment, and the opportunities that I decide to choose. So like, there's a huge correlation between them. And talking about the synchronicity of the friends, you're like, what one thing I noticed, and it's fascinating. I've been noticing this for years and years and years. And when I'm in consistent, and that's one of the keys, but a consistent flow, aligned, integrated, following my guidance on that, it seems more magical path. And by consistent, I mean just some sort of majority of the time. And when I'm doing that, the people who magically pop up into my life, and by that I mean it could be the phone call, the email, the chance encounter, the person at the store who's different than any other time I've been in the store. You know, it's like they are, and I'm not saying 100% of people either, but the people who are there, they're for whatever reason on the same wavelength. It's like the person's like, I got a call from a friend I haven't heard from in months, and he's all excited, and we just happen to be having some sort of a similar synchronistic thing going on. So it's like the state of being that I'm consistently in is magnetizing me toward other people who are also consistently in those similar enough states of being.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. I had this chance well, I went to, it was supposed to be a hike and it ended up just being at this waterfall and I met all these new people and then um I guess someone asked like, "Oh, what grounds you lately?" And then so I shared something and then it just like without filtering, I like talked about super consciousness and like some of these um experiences I've been having and this person's name was Cosmo who happened to be intuitive and so I've been surprised in that way of just what I've been open to sharing and then the response I've had from people that it's like, "Oh, I didn't even really like vet you to see if I could trust you, but I just like felt that this is what I'm going to share." And I did. And then it was well received and this person had similar experiences. So yeah, that's been interesting. And it's a small island and sometimes I feel like, oh, I've probably like met all the people on the island and this and that. And I'm meeting all kinds of new people with similar experiences, and yeah, it's a really fun journey to be on, and just yeah, being connected and communicating what I feel inspired to communicate without too much like mental considering, like, oh, this is appropriate, like you could say this to new people, you can't say that. Just wow, okay, I'm gonna keep going with this flow.
Yeah, yeah, I relate, resonate. Like as I'm hearing you say that, and you're talking about this, like sharing the flow state of what's there and being more open with your feelings and experiences and ideas with people you may not know. And like at that, like kind of hooking it back to what we were talking about before, we're talking about the feeling inside, you know? So instead of like thinking words of what to say, it's like there's this feeling that's being expressed.
Mm.
And then we're talking about the feelings of the ones that are aligned with the unique essence and our alignment and our inner guidance. And so, we have an awareness of the essence of ourselves and then speaking that. And so it's almost like the feeling itself has something to say. The
Mm.
energy itself has something to say. And then as I let that be expressed as it's happening, there's this feeling, and that is the compass, the guide. It's like it feels this way, I'm going to keep feeding that momentum in, and then that is now the energy, the momentum, the experience that then snowballs into more synchronicities, more energetic experiences that feel similar. And so there's something really magical about allowing the communication to be an expression of the state, which for me was very different than how I was raised. I was very logical, think, plan, pros and cons, map out strategies, versus, okay, I'm gonna just open my heart and say what's there and see what happens. And what I find is surprising. I don't know if surprising is the right word. Stunning, surprising, like awe, is how consistently expressing the feelings feeds more experiences that feel that have an amplified version of that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, and that brings me back to wholeness and feeling whole. I think I used
Mm.
to try to intentionally compartmentalize my life because I thought professionally I had to be one way, and then in my home life I was a different way. And so there was like purposeful segregation. And one of the most comfortable feelings about now is just like being a holistic being and being comfortable communicating all parts of myself. Uh, and to bring it back to the Nautilus interview, the last question they asked was if you could be a plant, mineral, or animal, like what would you be and why? And I just like spit out, I'd be a gardenia because it smells like heaven. And I was like, I can't believe I just said that. Like maybe I should have, you know, yeah, filtered it and like had a better response. But I think it was well received, and that was just further evidence of my comfort in being comfortable expressing my unique essence versus trying to filter it. Um, and yeah, and it's evidence of like this professional opportunity. That's kind of a quirky question for, the professional world to ask. At least I thought anyway. So yeah, it's kind of fun that it's being more wholeness is being reflected to me in professional avenues as well.
That's really interesting because yeah, like there's at least for me, there's like a perception of what is considered more professional and what isn't, and then that's another thing. I was raised like, oh, you go on a job interview, you have your questions drawn out, and you present yourself a certain way, and that may or may not be a match to how I truly prefer, how I truly align with my essence. And so, like, when I'm able to live my life, alignment, inner guidance, unique essence forward, like that is being myself in a state of being that feels aligned as like a higher or perhaps the highest priority, then the experiences I move toward naturally are the ones that are more calling to that. And of course, there's unexpected things all the time. So it doesn't mean anything's like guaranteed or whatever. But as I move in that direction and there's this like receptivity and I'm being myself and I'm more well received, there's like this really magical, like you refer to it as a dance, where it just kind of like hooks together, integrates together. And then that same criteria is if I'm being myself and it's not matching, now there's something to look at. Or maybe to go in that path, I have to put on layers to not be myself. And then now we can really feel because we've really detected that skill of the subtle feeling space, right? So then it's like, which path feels more like my essence? Which path feels like my alignment? Which path feels like my guidance? And then we can, it's like, maybe it's like a road trip, maybe it's like a heat-seeking missile, but then there's the constant in the moment course correction that then brings up the next revelation, the next experience, and then we can continue to refine. It's, oh, I felt this way, I made this decision, it looks like this. I felt this way, it made this decision, it looks like this. And when we orient towards state of being is the core of it. And I mean, I'm open to there being something more fundamental than that. But what I've seen is when the state of being is aligned, everything aligns. When the state of being is preferable, everything becomes more preferable. And so that's really one of the fundamental sweet spots. And that flows into conversations and opportunities and situations and organizations and full-on events and travels. And it just keeps stacking and growing and stacking and growing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I appreciate about developing this skill set is the term embodying, or like embodying has wisdom in my body now versus the intellectual concept that it was from spiritual teachers or people prior to this. I was given the experience to develop these skills. And one of the things I appreciate about the way you invited me to explore them was it was always an invitation for me to have an experience without you sharing what your experience was like before that. So it really was an experience that came from within. And over time, after developing the skill, then it just became a feeling in my body. And it's like, oh, I embodied this wisdom, I embodied this feeling through practicing this skill. It's not an intellectual thought, it is wisdom in my body, and it's a feeling in my body, and I have that now. And like you said, just all the experiences could stack and become more in your external world moving forward. But I think the biggest piece of wisdom I developed from this whole experience is embodying the higher states that I want to be, and shifting my state of being through that connection, becoming those things, and then um, just allowing that connection and embodiment to develop, to enhance, and then to have these experiences that amplify that connection, that relationship. And it's, as I'm saying it, it's so exciting because intellectually I've had that information, but as I'm sharing it, it feels different coming out of my mouth because it is spoken from experience, and it feels more like wisdom than just information. And yeah, and
Mhm.
the feeling in my body as I'm sharing it is different than just intellectual knowledge that I share that, I haven't felt in my body.
Oh, yeah, I feel that's a really, really profound distinction to bring up. And the difference between learning intellectual ideas, which school is really great at, and embodiment, which I mean, we just like to fully take the word as literally as possible. It's like, can I feel the state of being in my body?
Mm.
And once again, the way I was trained, the way like raised, I mean, and then the way that a lot of people are, it's I'm gonna think about what my body feels, which is like this extra step versus putting the awareness in the body on the location, noticing what's there, describing it, and then since it's a skill, come back and do that again and look. It's like, oh, is there consistency? There is. Is there consistent sensations and feelings? Oh, there are. Are there consistent energetic structures? Oh, there are. Oh, all these spiritual paintings and stuff that people make, like these things are I can if I put my awareness there, there's something there, and it's consistently there every time I look. And when like you said, like I invite you, so it's like you tell me what is there, and then when you start describing it, I'm like, yeah, that's what's there, isn't it? And so then by embodying it, and it's funny because like there's such a difference between the speaking of it and like I know when I hear the speaker that doesn't have the experience, like you said, like they're saying the words and they
Mm.
are the correct words. Like you're like, oh yeah,
Mm.
this is the idea. But then the energy behind it, the embodiment of it from the person sharing is like, does it have that enthusiasm? Does it have that layer of expression of that feeling, or is it flat? You know, and so then when you have that energy, you have that feeling, you have that embodiment, and then to be able to express it and like verbally, you can hear it in the words, and even if you don't know the subtle details, there's some part of us that knows. And then even in like a very more physical sense, it's the being fully immersed, fully embodied, fully immersed into what's physically occurring in the moment. And you talked about ocean, like being riding a wave or being in an ocean or that being in flow with the universe. That's like that moment of instead of like verbally speaking the embodiment, right? It's being immersed in the embodiment to such a degree that then the the feelings then start expanding outward more. Um, the edge of that starts hitting the edge of my lexicon where it's like, oh, we're starting to become more oneness and less physical and more now. And then, we're exploring language for that to be more clear. So what comes up for you with all that?
Flow state can be, it's it was easier for me to enter flow state when I'm swimming in the ocean or hiking in nature. And it is fun to realize and be in flow state in like more mundane moments, or just yeah, just being present and feeling it. So like through communicating, like that was a new experience for me, where I just had this idea and felt it in my body and communicated it simultaneously and had that feeling, and it felt like flow. And yet I didn't remember having that feeling prior to this, so I was just experiencing it in the moment by being present. And now after this conversation, am I able to like intellectually understand what just happened while I was feeling it. So the fact that flow state can occur in normal moments through communicating, through communicating authentically, and just being present to communicating the words as they're flowing through you, that's something, I mean, I talk like every day. So that's something I can continue to practice just by being present in the now moments. And that was just kind of like an aha moment of being in flow for that second. And it's like, oh yeah, I can. Being in flow state isn't limited to being on top of a mountain by myself, or having these zen moments. It can occur any moment throughout the day, and if it's a majority of your day, then yeah, that's when the magic happens. So yeah, it's just
Mm.
fun to keep being in flow state, and have evidence of it being reflected back to you throughout the day, every day, even in your dreams.
Yeah, hearing you talk about that, we're really, I feel the highlight of how flow state is a skill. And what's really awesome about developing these like inner skills, the super consciousness skills, is that they apply all the time. Like being able to move your awareness from something external to internal, to be able to hold our awareness on like our heart center, or like the energetic structures, like the energy body around us, in us, and then, so like when we develop the skill of, oh, I can connect into super consciousness and enter flow state, and an increasing ability of on command, then what does that mean? Well, it means like every activity can be done in flow, like the old proverb of like chop wood, carry water. That can be an experience of flow state, which is what I'm fairly certain it's about. And then, you could also be like doing the dishes or being on the walk or talking to your friend, or, any experience can now be that moment of deep immersion into my presence of my unique essence, and allowing the depths of myself, my being, my state of being, the aspects of myself that make me unique, to then be expressed, um I guess unfiltered. It's almost like as a kid we start that way, and then keep our kids safe, and we want to build a connect into society, so we give them these rules and standards, and some that fits really well, and then some they don't quite fit in the box quite right. And then from there, if you start embracing, I don't know, I'll just call it the spiritual journey, but the self-development journey, then there's this peeling away layers and peeling away layers. And it's kind of like the journey to get back to being the unfiltered child self, who also has the wisdom and the experience and the embodiment of the journey of life, and to then be able to integrate that all back together. And so that's like, well, that's I guess where it goes. That's like this beautiful experience that's cultivating, is this like ability to be an adult that's as unfiltered as a child, but still have all the love and compassion and experience to share. It's not quite the right word, but to like embrace and to be like the loving adult That's where I feel I like taking it, is to like let my inner child be my outer child, let my inner child be my inner adult. This sort of space, so life could be more fun and playful, and that's a side effect of practicing these skills.
Yeah, when the skills are not conscious, it's even more enjoyable, but as you practice the skill, if you're not in the flow and you could just get back there, then it's so easy to redirect as well. So that's one of the things that I've learned as well. But yeah, just yeah, what a gift. What a gift to have developed these skills and to be experiencing them and having a conversation about them. I know initially it was hard to converse about some of these things, and I feel like the fact that I'm able to just have a conversation more fluidly just says that I just makes me feel like I've embodied these concepts so much more and I've been living them and experiencing them, and it's a joy to be in this state and to have these experiences. And I've learned the skill, and I know that it's just going to be a journey of continuing to develop this skill, and it'll be a lifetime journey, but it'll be a much more enjoyable journey than some of the previous journeys I've been on, which maybe involved a lot more suffering. So yeah, I'm
Hmm. Yeah,
very
well, yeah. I mean, what's coming up for me there is like the challenges of life, those moments of difficulty, or as you said, suffering. Like they become what can be integrated. Integration is a funny thing, and I feel like it's an idea to share. Like, so people talk about integration a lot of different ways. You have a profound mystical experience, integrate afterward, or you travel and then you want to integrate back into your life. Or I find when we have these like expansive mystical experiences, to integrate them back in and this kind of a thing. And so what I also learned is I've been doing software stuff, AI coach, and idea of integration there is when we have two different versions of the software, but we want to have all of the features of both and we want it to work. And so what that looks like is you start combining them together, but then you got to work through the bugs. And so you test it and then make an adjustment, and you test it and make an adjustment. That's kind of the software iteration process. And so the term for that in software is integration. And so it's this idea of, oh, I just had this profound experience. Oh, I just, I connected with my inner child and connected to source, and I'm in this synchronistic flow and I'm having this amazing experience. How do I blend this back into my life? And so that is integration. Take previous self and new self and blend them together. So with this, it's always holistic. I'm always inviting the previous version of myself to merge into the new version of myself. And the way I see it now is I am connecting into source energy superconsciousness and I'm downloading, I'm updating my software, my operating system. I'm downloading super consciousness into my vessel. So if I'm like a vase, I fill with it. And that's like the integrative process. It's, can I allow super consciousness to be the programmer of my mind, to fill the embodiment of my being with my essence. I was going to say its essence, but it's like our essence because the super consciousness is me. So it's kind of like this aspect of myself that's so it's this invitation to allow in the receiving of the higher intelligence of super consciousness and then to develop the skill of that, right? The skill of allowing, the skill of receiving, the skill of filling, and then from in that space to allow this consciousness to give it the opportunity, to give ourselves the opportunity to let, to trust this way that we actually prefer to be. It's like I'm going to not only invite in the super consciousness that feels like alignment and guidance and preference and whatever feelings are there for each person. But to then trust that this aspect of myself can be the navigator of my life. Because now we're talking about holistic, and instead of letting the mind make all decisions, we let the heart be loving. We let the gut do it's kind of this drive. It's kind of instinctual. It's kind of, it's kind of this nudging, pulling. But then if I have my awareness more in my energetic body, it's more of this, it's kind of more of a glowing. It's more of a radiating. So now there's that subtlety, but then we can allow the different aspects of ourselves to align. And then that's all kind of complicated. Instead of all that, right, it's just simply being present. And by being present with ourselves, these are the experiences that like internal experiences that are unfolding from that. Which is then like the talking about skill and automatic. And there's the idea of unconscious incompetence, and then that becomes conscious competence, and then eventually that becomes unconscious competence. I think there's another step or two in there. But the idea there is when you practice the skill enough, eventually it becomes unconscious and skillful. And when you're there, that's when people call you an expert and a master and talented. And but it took practice to get there. It took repetition and putting in the reps of the skills. And when that skill is being ourself, be letting my essence shine, like to me, that's one of the most amazing skills you could possibly practice. Anything you want to share on that?
Yeah. Just as you said shine, there was a reflection of the sun on your head. So that was, yeah, that was divinely timed, yeah, stimulus and response kind of thing. Um, yeah, it's so beautiful that you talk about operating systems and then you integrating them together, and that made me think of like my unique essence and how like the more I combine all the parts of myself, the more enjoyable the experience is when it's all those seemingly separate parts of myself. And in addition, the book I'm reading on the hidden habits of genius talks about how these inventors were interested in a vast array of concepts, and they would take two seemingly separate ideas and bring them together for these novel inventions. So it's that holistic approach. It's finding a way, or it it's allowing the super consciousness connection to take these seemingly separate ideas and just overlap them into a new novel invention, experience, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the fact that one of my passions, unique essence, bits is super consciousness, is synchronicities, is this spirituality, and that gets to be embedded in all the other things that I'm passionate about. It is there's never going to be an end to it. There's going to always be a depth and surprise to it, and regardless of the path I choose, bringing that to it will make it more joyous, more fulfilling, more holistic, and it's it's amazing. All the ideas that are going off from this conversation are very, very pleasing to me and exciting.
Oh, that's amazing. I love what you just brought to the end of this conversation so far is like this idea that okay, it can help like being feeling this degree of connectivity can help make any experience better, right? Feeling more of the spiritual and the synchronicities can improve any experience I have. So it can guide me to experiences that are more aligned, and it can make, even if I'm in experiences that are less aligned, and I can then infuse this into it, and they'll just be more aligned, they'll be more preferable, they'll be more desirable by allowing in more of the uniqueness, by allowing in more of the spirituality and the connectivity and all that. That is the recipe for well, I guess transmuting, but it's the recipe for transforming those areas of life to just be even better. Like one thing that's coming up as I'm saying this is it's like the idea of if we're always moving towards something more preferable, more representative of our essence, there's always going to be something that's less representative that gets transformed and replaced. And so there's this continuous, I'm going to keep being more of my unique essence, a greater embodiment of it, and letting that express out in intuitive ways and in flowing ways. And then each time I do that, there's some aspect of self that can be further integrated into superconscious. It can be further upgraded into the flow. It can be further transformed by our unique essence, our unique abilities, our talents, and energy, and all these kinds of things. Anything
Yeah.
you want to add to that?
In this moment, I feel complete. I feel like it could be a never-ending conversation, but yeah,
Awesome.
I think yeah,
Yeah,
this
so I'll put out an offer to you. Is there anything, I mean, I know you have been, and this kind of spur of the moment, I didn't ask you to share before, but is there anything that you're up to that you would like to recommend people check out?
oh, like Um, oh, your membership program? Yes. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that people check out your membership and connect to super consciousness and develop this skill. I mean, I'm up to so many other things, but yeah,
Uh,
peach
well,
healing.
I appreciate the plug. That wasn't quite what I had in mind. But yeah, thanks. I'll mention that again too. But like your life, I don't know. You made some sort of a group or something. I don't know. You don't have to share anything. But I was
Oh,
giving you an
yeah,
opportunity.
no. Oh, okay. No, I've been following inspiration to dead ends and being okay with just going on different new paths. So I don't have anything concrete that I'm excited to share at the moment. I've had a lot of things that I've shared and stopped. So eh, I'm not putting pressure on myself and I'm going with the flow and just trusting that I'll be excited about other things as they come up again in the future. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Then I guess since you plugged my program, it's available. You guys can join. It'll be great. I also have an AI coach. Ask me about it. Awesome. Heather, this has been super, super fun. I feel like the energy of myself just like skyrocketed from this call.
Yeah,
So
it
thank
was
you
a lot
so
of
much. It's
fun.
been super
Thank
fun.
you.
Looking forward to talking to you next time. Appreciate you.
Have a